Welcome back. The 20-year jail sentence of a taxi driver, Mr. Jacob Humpfrey, whose reckless driving caused the death of school children at a railway crossing in the Western Cape, was welcomed by members of the National Assembly. A member of the IFP, as well as Transport Minister Ndebele, said the courts were now sending a clear message that they take the issue of road safety seriously.
The IFP welcomes the sentence handed down in the Western Cape High Court this morning, which saw taxi driver Jacob Humphreys sentenced to an effective 20 years in jail. This judgment will send a clear message to all purveyors of public transportation that any kind of disregard for the safety of one's passengers or the traffic laws of this country will be punished by the full might of the law. In this case, 10 children lost their lives due to the thoroughly reckless and negligent actions of Mr. Humphreys. While the sentence cannot replace those beautiful children, it can and does send a clear signal of intent by the judiciary that such actions have no place and will not be tolerated in South Africa.
Thank you for the concern that was raised by the member about the sentencing of Mr. Humphrey. As a department, we have already issued a statement appreciating the handing down of a sentence of the conviction of Mr. Humphrey, who murdered those kids, and appreciating that the courts are now taking the matter of road safety seriously and no longer charging people and convicting them on culpable homicide, but on actually murder and attempted murder. And we appreciate that, and we hope it serves as a warning to all those who drive recklessly and not regarding human life as they do so.
We still have time left, so let's continue with member statements in the National Assembly. These statements did not evoke responses from any member of the executive in the House, but let's nonetheless hear what these members had on their minds.
When is the government going to start taking acid mine contamination of our country's water supplies seriously? How much of our drinking water must be contaminated before we acknowledge the severity of this crisis? Caroline is merely the tip of the iceberg, and the having of these types of scenarios that are going to begin playing out all over Gauteng and Mpumalanga should the problem of acid mine water seepage not be dealt with proactively. It is imperative that preemptive, immediate and decisive action is taken on holistic basis by government if we wish to prevent situations like the one that occurred in Carolina from happening again.
The report in last week's edition of the City Press newspaper about striking mine workers was alarming indeed. The headline of the report was, "We will kill them if they go to work." These utterances were made after a man was killed apparently by striking mine workers who suspected that he was trying to sneak back to Impala Mine Shaft 8 to reapply for his job. Striking mine workers allegedly said more people would die if the 17,000 workers fired last month are not reinstated soon. They reportedly threatened to wait for those non-striking workers at the bus stop. One intimidator was reported to have said, and I quote, "Every morning you will find dead bodies because we are going to kill them. If they try to go to work, they will die," close quote. Deputy Speaker, such utterances are totally unacceptable and have to be condemned in the strongest possible terms. The South African Constitution does not only give workers the right to strike, but it also gives workers the right not to strike. Our Constitution does not encourage lawlessness, intimidation, and violence during strike action. The ACDP therefore calls and appeals to government, particularly the police, to ensure that those workers who want to go to work are allowed to do so without fear that they might be killed by strikers. Section 205 and subsection 3 of our Constitution says, and I quote, "The objects of the police service are to prevent, combat, and investigate crime, to maintain public order, to protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic and their property, and to uphold and enforce the rule of law."
The statement relates to a poultry project which inspires village women. The issue of unemployment and addressing its rising levels remains one of the ANC government's biggest priorities. However, the solution does not solely rely on government, but also in people and communities helping themselves as well. It is thus extremely heartwarming to see how the Dumisani Women's Project in the rural village of Camille's River have started a poultry project where they nurture chickens and sell these in the village and surrounding areas. Their initiative to provide chickens to the people in the area has meant that long trips to the cities to purchase live chickens for family rituals and ceremonies, in particular, is a thing of the past. The women utilize wheelbarrows to transport their chickens for sale in the villages. The members of the project do not draw salaries, but are paid stipends dependent on their monthly sales. The women hope to grow their business to be able to supply bigger businesses and retailers. We wish them well.
Eskom's ever-increasing electricity tariffs are having adverse effects on South Africans, especially the poor. Even though NERSA managed to grant a lower electricity tariff increase of only 25.9%, if that is lower, for 2012 than Eskom first applied for, the impact of additional tariff increases from other electricity providers such as municipalities are having far-reaching implications on the poor. The repeated increases in electricity costs have averaged over 25% since July 2008 and are rapidly making affordable housing in the Johannesburg inner city and elsewhere completely unaffordable, Deputy Speaker. Over each of the past 4 years, the additional increase on top of the annual Eskom price increases last year reached the ridiculous increase of 35% for residential properties. This meant that many tenants saw their monthly electricity bills increase by 150 and 200 rand per month. Families are crippled by this and struggle to come out on their monthly earnings. While pay packets may have increased, electricity costs over the same period tripled, far outweighing the earnings of many families. As a result of arrears and write-off, vacancies have risen to uneconomic levels in the city of Johannesburg, or people move into overcrowded buildings.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition of A View from the House. We will be back tomorrow morning with more from Parliament, including this afternoon's question time with the Deputy President. Until then, goodbye.